All right, so back to my Silca pump. So I found some interesting thing about this. Is I just pumped up my bike right now. Normally with the Silca, I mean, if you look at with the numbers on the inside numbers, that's the red. That's the psi, and between each line is basically 10 psi. So normally I pump it up to for my mountain bike. I pump it up to just over 20, so just over this red line right here. And on the rear tire, I just pump it up a little bit past halfway in between this red one and this red one right here, which should be about 25 or 26 or something like that. So I always I always feel the push down on the tires, just to, I don't know, that's just a habit, I guess. But anyway, but on this gauge I pumped it up to the rear to 25 and the front to about 20, and I pushed on the pressure, and I was like, whoa, what the hell? The pressure on this here at that 25 and 20 is way harder, way harder than over here. So I was like, oh, is this gauge accurate, or is this one completely off? So anyway, so I basically checked my other gauge, the gauge I use for my my car and my car and my motorcycles, against this gauge, and this gauge and that, and my gauge for my car and motorcycle is only off. The difference between them are only about 2 psi. So I'm like, oh, that's probably within range. That means I think that's those ones are a little bit more accurate. I think this one is the one that's accurate, and the reason why I say that is because the resolution on this one, every line is basically 10 psi, and this thing is based on 200 plus psi, right? So that's 200 right there. So this is like 210, 220 psi on this one, and because of that fine resolution, it's not that accurate, but at the same time, because it's such in a wide range, all the way up to 200, it's not as accurate down, when you're down at the whatever smaller range either. So I think this one is just completely off. So yeah, so all this time basically I was riding at much lower pressures. If I compare this pressure, at 21 or 25 to this one, it's like the difference is almost about 10 psi off. So this one over here at 25, no, excuse me, this one over here at about 25 psi feels like this one at about 15 psi. So anyway, so I pumped up my bike tires, my mountain bike tires to 20 in the rear, and I think 17 or so in the front, and it feels that right there, 20 in the rear here and 17 in front here, feels firmer, way firmer than this ever was at 25 in the rear and 21 in the front, or what I bought 25 and 21 in the front. So for this one to feel as firm as this one at 20, this has to be up like at 30 psi or something like that. So it's like, it's so that was a big eye opener for me. I always thought this was pretty close. I was like, oh, it's probably within a few psi, maybe 5 psi at the most. But so it seems like it's off by even more than that. It seems like it's off by like 10 psi. So all this time I was running, on my mountain bike, I was running much lower pressure than you should. That's probably why I was getting so many pinch flats. I was like, other people are riding their bikes. Yeah, sure, some people using cush core and all this stuff, but people are riding their bikes and they have whatever psi, and they're using low psi too. They're only using like maybe about 20-ish in the front and 22. They usually they go 2 or 3 within 2 or 3 psi between the front and rear. And they're running low psi, and they're riding big bikes, so they're riding fast. And yeah, they have cush core, and yeah, they have DH casing. Well, I have cross country casing, but I'm a light rider. I'm light, I'm slow, I'm not doing any big jumps or anything like that, and I'm still getting all these pinch flats. So I'm like, what the hell? So that right there is very suspect. So this gauge is very suspect. I'm pretty sure this gauge is fine when you're up at like more towards the middle. Most gauges are. Most things when you look at the if there's some type of measurement or whatever, uh, most things when you're closer to the middle of it, it's where it's most accurate. So I think this one, because I was so low, I was only at the second and third, between the second and the third line on the red mark there. That's the first. Those are that first red line is the first mark. Second red line is the second mark. So I think that was just too low on this gauge, that it wasn't very accurate. So I think this was a problem right there. So yeah, so I'm digging this one, because this resolution here, it's not just 1 pound resolution, it's actually half a pound resolution. So every line you see, every small line you see is half a pound. Let's look at this one. So that's 15 right there. That's 15 and a half right there. And it's slightly longer. That's 16 right there, right? So you see the really short line, that's half pound. The longer line is 1 pound. Now obviously the dark bold one is 5 pounds. So this one, so I'm digging this one. This one, I like that it goes down to that half pound resolution. It's a little bit more, more precise that way. So I think this one could be trusted. Again, this one is within. This one and my car tire one is about 2 psi difference. And I'm not sure how accurate my car tire one, because I once upon a time I had like 3 or 4 different car tire gauges, and I measured all of them on the same tire, and they were all the same thing. They were all like within 2 psi of each other. Some of them was like, let's say if I pump the tire up to, on one gauge it says 30 psi, another gauge it might go 31, and another one might say 29 or something like that. So it's all within a few psi each other. So this one is too. So I'm okay with that. That's that's close enough. I think I might possibly trust this one more, just because again it has that finer resolution. All right, so that's it. So yeah, so for all you folks that are using a Silca pump that goes up really high, or any pump really that goes up really high, that goes up to the 200 psi or even 100 psi, that's too much. That's too much for mountain biking. For road bike it's okay, because road bikes usually you pump up to 200 psi anyways, but for a mountain bike that's too much. I would recommend you change the gauge to something that only goes up to like 30 psi, 40, maybe 60 at the most. I think 60 might be pushing it. 40 should work, and this one is 30, is even better. I was gonna get a 40 for this, but they didn't have a 40 for this size, because this thread pitch here, this is a 1/8 thread pitch, not a quarter inch. Originally I thought it was a quarter inch, so I bought a quarter inch one, and the quarter inch one was way too big. So for the resolution, for the 1/8, not thread pitch. What I'm saying, not thread pitch. I mean the diameter, the NPT, National Pipe Thread size is on this is 1/8. So for the size for this gauge, it only has the 30 psi, maximum 30 psi, and the next one up is 80 psi. 60 psi. So there's no 40. But the quarter inch one does have a 30, 40, 60. Actually, I think it even has a 50, 30, 40, 50, 60. But the 1/8 inch one doesn't have that. It only has 30. Then the next one up is 60. So that's why I picked the 30 one, and I actually like this one, because again, it goes down to the half psi resolution. Whereas think about it, if this was 60 psi, that means the 30 psi would be where the 15 is. So it would be just smaller resolution, right? Smaller so basically between, so if it's half, that means instead of between 15 and 20 being 5, it would be between 30 and 40. So the small one would be 10 psi versus 5 psi. So that's a big difference in resolution, and I think this when it's more like this, it's more finer, it's more precise. So yeah, so I highly recommend changing your gauge to an appropriate range that's within your range. So as far as mountain biking goes, most mountain bikers they're pumping theirs up to around 20 psi or so for trail riding, maybe a little bit more, especially if you're heavier, you're more aggressive, you go up more. And if you're like doing jumps, big jumps, you go up to like 30, 40 even psi. So if that's the case, then get the 60 psi one. Or if your gauge it's not a 1/8 like this one is, if you're not using a Silca, you're using some other brand. It's not 1/8. It might be 1/4. If you have a 1/4 one, they make a 40 psi gauge one. So so the options are out there basically. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, so pick it accordingly. I like this one. Actually, the reason why I picked this one is, and it has a fluid fill, but I didn't necessarily. No, I wanted the fluid fill, but I didn't. But that wasn't like a requirement. The main requirement was that the 1/8. So on this case, on this brand, anyways, the 1/8 was only available with a fluid fill, whereas the 1/4 was available with a fluid fill and a non-fluid fill. And the difference in price between fluid fill and non-fluid fill is only like $2. So you might as well just get a fluid fill one. It's a little bit more stable. The needle doesn't shake around, and so it stays more stable. So it's a little bit more accurate that way, I think. Anyways, all right. Thanks for watching.